guys, and welcome back for another video. Today we're going to be talking about sewing machine troubleshooting. We're going to talk about all the things that I like to check before I finally throw up my hands, I give up, and I have to take it to the repairman. This actually all started when my friend, her machine was acting up, and she messaged me and she was like, do I need to get it fixed? And I was like, no, just bring it over. So we brought it over and I gave her a little tune-up and she works beautiful. So sometimes it's something very little and minute that happened to the machine, and somebody like me who's been sewing for over 30 years can be able to show you what that little thing is. Okay, so the first thing is going to be threading. We're going to check your thread and see if it is perfectly and precisely threaded through your machine properly. Machines don't like it when it's not threaded properly. They have all these little bits and bobs that you need to wrap your thread around, and there is a reason for that. And if it's not hooked around something, it will not function correctly. So what I like to do is I like to take my thread out of the machine entirely. I'm just going to switch to white this time. And we're going to completely rethread. Because sometimes the thread actually gets unhooked from something, or it's not sitting right in your tension discs, or even that little bar that goes up and down. Sometimes it gets unhooked on that, and you can't really see because it's kind of in your machine. And when I come down, there's these other two little hooks that I need to. Every machine is different, but you just want to make sure that all those little spots have the thread through it. Otherwise, your machine's gonna hate you. So I'm just gonna leave it unthreaded for now. Also, make sure that your spool of thread is nicely wound. Is it a nice clean spool? Is it a good quality thread? Sometimes quality matters. So if your thread is constantly breaking, it might be because your thread is trash. Other times you can get spools that kind of look like this, that actually have a little plastic kind of catchy thing here, if you can see that. And that is designed to put your thread when you go to store it. Now, sometimes when you have your thread on your machine, that thread, as it's unraveling, will actually get stuck on that little, and it, so I don't recommend spools that are like this. I usually stick with large cones. If you have a machine that you are able to get a larger cone, you can also get ones that look like this. This one is actually quite used, but you can see how that comes off your machine. Or I like to stick with Gutermann, which Gutermann I've never had an issue with. So inspecting your spool of thread, making sure it's good quality, making sure that the thread is actually coming off of the spool nicely, and you're rethreading your machine and making sure that everything is good in that area. Once that's over, we're gonna go to the bobbin. That's where most things usually happen, is in the bobbin area. So for mine, I can easily just pop out this little plate here, but feel free to remove the plastic parts and the metal. So if you have a little screwdriver, unscrew those screws, take off everything so that you can take a look inside. Then you can take your tools, give it a good clean out. I like to use little vacuum cleaners like this. I'll have a link for Amazon down below if you are interested. This is just a little one that you can charge with USB-C. I also like to use like paint brushes or makeup brushes to be able to dust out those areas. Don't use compressed air because that will actually push the lint further into your motor of your machine. But just having some good tools, even a toothbrush to clean out your feed dogs, because feed dogs can get really compacted. And the feed dogs are those little teeth that are underneath the presser foot that pushes or pulls your fabric through the machine. So now I'm going to take out my bobbin and we're going to inspect it. If it's too low, sometimes that can also give you issues. So just take the thread off and rewound your bobbin. If it isn't wound nicely anymore and you can see that it's kind of getting really, it looks tangled on the spool, then you didn't wind it nicely. So again, rip off all of the thread and rewind your bobbin. So this is my bobbin housing here. I'm easily able to pull that out. And there is a little red dot here, or arrow, and a little red notch here. You want to make sure that when this is in the machine that those are lining up. It could be a white dot and a white arrow. Just depends on the make and model of your machine. When you take this out, you can easily clean out that area. Make sure that everything is, you know, dusted nicely, because especially if you're working with faux fur or fleece, things can get gummed up very quickly. So you have to be constantly doing this. If you've never done it before, it might not be pretty. So just be prepared. And after you've done that and you've kind of cleaned it all out, this machine was just serviced, so we are beautiful still, thank goodness. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to insert that bobbin housing back in, making sure those two things are lined up, and then we can actually put all the plates back on. Also, underneath those plates, sometimes they can also be a little dusty, so feel free to dust off those. Make sure there's nothing in the feed dog area. Those are the little slots there. And you can also inspect your feed dogs to make sure that there's no compacted fibers that is stuck in between there. Because I'm no joke, I have sewn with so much fleece in the past and didn't realize it. And my feed dogs, you couldn't feel how bumpy they were because there was so much that was, it was almost like matted hair compacted in between. It was bad. Anyways, that was a long time ago. So make sure you have a more of a harder bristle brush, maybe a toothbrush, to be able to clean out those feed dogs really well. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put this plate back in. You're going to put your metal plate back on and then screw those screws back in and then put your plastic housing back on. And then hopefully everything's okay in that area. And then we're going to look at the needle and that whole area. Now sometimes your presser foot can actually come loose. There is that screw on the side. A lot of times after a lot of sewing, that screw can start to loosen. So you're going to want to make sure that the whole contraption is on properly and that screw is nice and tight. You want to check your needle. Now, if you've been sewing with anything that has any glue or interfacing, there is a chance that there might be some glue residue on your needle, and that also can cause problems with your thread. So if it is gummed up, then you're going to want to change it. Any amount of sewing, I'm going to say over 10 hours of sewing, you're going to want to change out that needle. So sometimes it's bent. If it's bent, new needle. If it's dull, new needle. If you hear it hitting something when you're turning your wheel, new needle. Most things in that area can be solved with a new needle. You also want to make sure that the needle has a flat back, okay? And that flat back needs to go to the back of the machine. So when you're inserting it, make sure you put your finger at the flat back and then we're putting it up. Make sure that that needle is all the way up in that shank, because sometimes you think you put it all the way up and you didn't, and then it starts hitting the inside of your machine because it's even off by 1 millimeter or 2 millimeters. Make sure that you unscrew that post, unscrew it, make sure that needle is way up there and that flat back is towards the back of your machine. That actually was the problem with my friend's machine, as her needle wasn't in properly. And that is just such a little tiny step that can make your sewing machine hate you. So we've changed our needle because really at the end of the day, just change the needle and make sure that you insert it properly. Then we're going to check our tension. Now our tension for me doesn't usually change very often, but there's always a chance that if you pick up your machine or you move it, or you had kids in the room and they start pressing buttons, you want to make sure that that tension is where it needs to be. Mine's always set at a 4. Yours is probably going to be set at a 4 as well. Yours might be up here. This is where mine is on my machine. What I like to do, if you are a new beginner sewist and you just got this machine right out of the box, take a picture of it, because usually when you receive it, it's going to have kind of default settings that you're going to want to use. Take a photograph of it, and then if you ever need to refer back, what were the settings that I used in the beginning when I knew my machine was working well. And I also have a pressure right here, kind of a pressure dial. So I have to make sure that this dial is also where it needs to be. So these two things I would take a picture of and just kind of make sure, because sometimes when you are sewing and you want to do maybe some decorative stitches or fancy stitches, you have to change your tension. And then you get up and you walk away, and then you come back and you go to use your machine and you forgot what you did last time. You forgot that you did those fancy stitches, and then you're like, oh my god, my machine doesn't work, who touched it, what happened? And it turns out that you just never returned the tension back to the way it was before you were doing your fancy stitches. So definitely check for that, but usually, again, it's between a 5 and a 3, so I just stick with 4. Another thing you want to kind of make sure is that the thread at the top of the machine is the same as the thread at the bottom of the machine. Sometimes you can mix and match your threads if you're doing decorative stitches, such as maybe a metallic thread on top, and then you can use your standard universal thread in the machine. Sometimes that's okay, but if it doesn't work for you, your machine wants the same weight thread at the top as well as the bottom, as a general rule. Now, of course, if you're doing certain stitches where it requires you to have a different weight on top as opposed to the bottom, then you can cross that bridge when you get there. But same with quality. I like to keep the same quality at the top as well as in the bobbin. So those are the main things that I check for when I am troubleshooting with my sewing machine. I'm just going to give you a few little instances of things that have happened to me in the past per my experience, so that if you ever come across it, that you'll be like, oh, that happened to Ashley. Okay. So one time I had a sewing machine. It was older than this, and I went to go sewing with it, and I tried to use the decorative stitches on the side. It was actually a Singer, and it wasn't working for me. And I actually bought it off of Facebook Marketplace, and I messaged the girl and I said, you sold me a machine and it doesn't work. And she's like, it worked when you took it. And I'm like, what is going on here? Turns out my little bobbin winder was pushed to the side. It didn't have a bobbin on it, but there was almost no way that I could have known that. But it definitely was something that I did myself, or she did, just by picking up the machine and moving it and then pushing over. This one's a little bit different, but usually you have this post that you push over, or it's the other way around. Anyways, regardless, this engages the bobbin winder so that the other part of the machine doesn't actually work. So make sure that this isn't, because, you know, kids come in and they like to tinker. If your machine's not working, check this spot. Another thing that happened to me was when I went to sit down and sew one day, I went to press the pedal and it didn't work. And I thought, oh no, something's wrong with my machine. Believe it or not, the pedals often, they just kind of crap out on you. Happens all the time. This actually happened on my older brother. And yeah, it just stopped working altogether. I didn't do anything to it. It was like lights out, no one was home. So it's pretty often where people have to go and buy a replacement pedal for their machine. So I'm sure you can find one on Amazon. They're pretty much dime a dozen these days, but that is definitely one reason why your machine could stop working, is just because the pedal is a dud. Or if yours is still under warranty, of course, you can contact the sewing machine company and hopefully they will send you a new one in the mail. Who knows? Always happens though when the warranty is just up though, doesn't it? Now I'm going to talk about timing for a moment. This is something, this will be beyond yours and my scope of practice. And timing is basically when the machine goes down and the bobbin does its little thing in there, and the timing is off. One is going down just slightly at a different rate, and it might be busting your needle off, It might be hitting every time it goes in. Checking all the things that we've talked about in this video. If you can see while you hand crank and you can open up your bobbin housing and see what it does, if that's really messed up, then you're gonna have to go see a repairman, because the timing is something that I don't think the standard person can fix in their home. It has a lot to do with the gears and things inside of the machine. So you're actually gonna have to like take the whole thing apart to be able to put that back to normal. Now, if you have a really old machine, it might not be worth it. It might cost a lot of money. So make sure you ask, how much does this cost? It's not really something that happens very often, but it can happen. So I need to tell you about it. But just hopefully, all those other things is going to solve whatever problem you're having. Hopefully, your thread's just bunching up and things. But if there is some serious like metal on metal action, there's a good chance that it is a timing issue. And yeah, there's nothing you can do about that other than getting someone to repair it. But again, if it is an older machine or a cheaper machine, you might just want to, swap it out for a new one. So of course, every machine is different, so I highly encourage you to check out your user manual, if there's any videos for your particular machine on how to take apart the bobbin and everything inside. I do have a cleaning video of me cleaning out one of my machines. I think it was my baby lock, that I can link down below. This one is very different from my previous machine. So if you go back in my videos, you'll see I had baby lock and a brother in the very beginning. But yeah, I will leave that link down below. And again, check your manual. There are also manuals online if you lost yours, to make sure that, everything is done correctly. You're making sure that you threaded correctly and all those things. So once we've done all this, of course, you just want to take some cotton thread and you want to put it underneath your needle and you want to just test it out. Test it out at all speeds. But first, before you actually go a little crazy, if you do have, metal on metal action happening, or your needle is really gumming up quickly, then we're just going to hand crank it first and see what happens. If things are running smoothly, then start your machine slowly and see what happens. Okay, and then I'm just going to take it out of the machine. I'm going to inspect my thread, look at the back, looks good, put it in. You might want to wear safety glasses. All right, and again, take it out, inspect. I don't even have any bobbin thread in here. You get the idea. Okay, pedal to the metal. Take it out again, inspect, and we should be good to go. It doesn't hurt to do some tests before you actually start sewing your actual project, because you don't want to ruin that material or that fabric. So of course, if you have any tips and tricks on the things that you like to inspect on your machine, maybe I missed something, which is very possible. I am a human. Please let us know in the comments down below. If you have any questions or you want me to look at your machine, feel free to send me a message over on Instagram or TikTok. I'm always happy to help or to, guide people in the right direction. Or if you're looking for a new machine, I'm always here. So here to help. Everything. I love sewing. I love all of you. So I'm always, willing to chat. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. Give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.